Bill Murray, you sir are a comedy legend. Groundhog Day is a fantasy comedy directed by Harold Ramis. The story follows a cynical TV weatherman named Phil Connors who finds himself reliving the same day over and over again. When he goes on location to the small town of Punxsutawney, I hope I pronounced that right, to film a report about their annual Groundhog Day, his predicament drives him to distraction, until he sees a way of turning the situation to his advantage. So just to give you guys a heads up, there'll be no spoilers in this review, so I'll keep plot details and character info to an absolute minimum. Now, whether this movie works or not, it rests entirely on the character of Phil Connors. Luckily, when you cast an actor of Bill Murray's calibre, you know you're in safe hands. Phil starts off his character arc as an absolute dick to everyone that he comes across in his life. Whether that's not having any concern for his colleagues, ignoring someone from his past that tries to converse with him, or trying to use his influence as a weatherman to overcome a traffic jam on a blustery snowy day. Bill Murray, amongst all of this chaos, somehow makes Phil likeable during the first act of the movie. And that's all down to Murray infusing the character with his own sense of dry wit and humour. Speaking of humour, what makes Phil such an engaging character is his ability to make others smile and laugh in the recurring Groundhog Day that he experiences throughout the story. And for me, this is one of the most important ways for an audience to get on board with an unlikable character, is by making the character as relatable and engaging to watch. Again, this goes back to Murray's performance, which is constantly amusing and entertaining, even during the unlikable phase of his character arc. Andy McDowell gives a solid performance as Phil's love interest Rita Hanson. Much like Murray's performance, McDowell was constantly likeable in her role, as her character provides a great counterpoint to Phil's dull outlook on life. In the case of this movie, you have to give Harold Ramis major props for making the story as fresh and innovative as it is, especially given how the story revolves around a protagonist that goes through the same events on a daily basis. A lot of the success of this movie, you can tell it comes down to the script and direction, and how it allows for a variety of visual gags in the recurring characters and locations. This variety meant that, by and large, I wasn't bored with the repetitive nature of Phil's everyday life. The movie also moves along at a brisk pace, and watching it for the first time, I found that it never slowed down, especially once Phil is trapped in his Groundhog Day. An important aspect that Ramis never forgets is Phil's character arc. Despite the funny scenarios that Phil goes through in his Groundhog Day, Ramis allows the repetitive nature of Phil's life to break down his ego over the course of the story. The movie, as a result, always understands the central conflict of its protagonist, which is Phil's need to be less egotistical and more caring towards the people he encounters. You can tell that Ramis is just as invested in the dramatic scenes where we see Phil taking the time to care for others, as he is with the comedic scenes where we see Phil's ego in all of its glory. It's this care and attention to detail in the direction of the script that makes Phil a very flawed yet interesting protagonist, despite the exuberance and charm that he conveys on the surface. The only negative I had with this movie is how the repetitive nature of the story sometimes goes a tad overboard during the second act. While I understand this is in keeping with the nature of the story, I felt there were enough of these moments prior in the movie where we already felt Phil's frustration of reliving Groundhog Day. If Ramis had cut out these scenes, then the movie, in my opinion, would have been a flawless comedy. So just to give you my overall thoughts on Groundhog Day, Bill Murray is brilliant in the role of Phil Connors, as he infuses the character with his own sense of dry wit and humour, whilst at the same time making him grounded and relatable to the audience. Andy McDowell gives a solid performance as Phil's love interest Rita Hanson, as McDowell was constantly likeable and engaging to watch. You have to give Harold Ramis major props for making the story as fresh and innovative as it is, as the variety of gags meant that Phil's Groundhog Day, by and large, didn't come across in a boring manner. An important aspect that Ramis never forgets is Phil's character arc, as he's able to balance the comedic and dramatic tones of the movie. The only negative I had with this movie was experiencing Phil's frustration of reliving Groundhog Day during the second act, as I felt this territory was efficiently covered earlier in the movie. So overall, I'm going to give Groundhog Day an 8.5 out of 10. So, I now hand it over to you guys. I'm interested to hear your thoughts in terms of whether or not you enjoyed Groundhog Day, and do you think this is one of Bill Murray's best performances? So, interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this movie review, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and be sure to hit the notification bell for updates on the latest reviews. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.